Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
Fans, welcome back for Working Fans Musiccast, Episode 2. Today, we have a very special guest, but before we get to him, as always, we are brought to you by the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1, written by Vinnie Barry, 35 short stories across the wrestling landscape. Each book comes autographed by one of 11 wrestlers featured in the book. It was also written by Vinnie Barry, who also wrote Lance by Chance, Wrestling is a Von Erich, available at lancebychance.com, where the other book is available. Our first guest, Ayo Money Meech, the album Graham. We were brought to you by that album. And today, we are brought to you by The Fog, brought to you by Kamoflage. Cam, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm really good.
Now, I ask this with all musicians and really anybody. When did you first get into music? What hooked you, and who were your early favorites?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. Okay, so I'll start with the first half. I can't really say when I first fell in love with music. However, my mother and my uncles on her side were really big into music when I was young. I could probably trace it back to being like maybe 5 or 6. And I was always a really dancey baby. According to my mom, she'll tell you I always used to listen to music and try to turn the speakers up on her old jukeboxes and whatnot.
Wow, so you've been
And
trying to feel the music for years.
oh yeah, I really first, I think when I knew that I wanted to make music, or at least um I guess maybe rap, was in high school, maybe earlier, be like first freshman year of high school. I had this notepad that I would write poetry, and I really started off writing poetry and playing with keyboards and stuff like that. And that poetry book eventually became a rhyme book, and the piano was the first instrument that I really was able to get my hands on, as far as playing it a lot. The first instrument I actually ever played, this is a true story, not many people know this, but the first instrument I actually ever played was the violin. And how the violin came about was when I was in probably first grade to like fifth grade. You go through this time period. I grew up in East Hartford, and we went through this time period where they were giving kids school instruments. A lot of this stuff doesn't really happen anymore because of, things change. But they were giving kids school instruments that you could practice at school, but if you were able to sign up and your parents had the money to rent these instruments out, you got first dibs on these instruments. Well, my mom didn't have the money to give me the first dibs on, the first wave of instruments. So the choices that I had were like a clarinet or violin. And I got the violin. My dad, I don't know if he really liked that I played the violin. He wanted me to play the saxophone. And my mom was like, well, if you want him to play the saxophone, why don't you chip in and, make it happen? Because I grew up in a really, uh, separated home. So I went from the violin to the saxophone, maybe the following year. And both of those instruments eventually got repossessed. So I wasn't able to actually master, like fully master either of those instruments. And from there, I started tinkering with pianos that I would find here and there around our house. My grandmother had this cool little keyboard, and from there, I just fell in love with that instrument, writing poetry, and turning my poetry into rapping. And the rest, I guess, is history. As far as my favorite artist growing up, I would have to say that's really tough because I grew up in a really diverse time period of music, and being from East Hartford and moving to Colchester, which is a predominantly white town, really young, I had this really big um
Kind of culture clash.
yeah, it was a culture clash. Perfect. I was looking for the words and you gave it right to me. I grew up in the hood, and then when I moved to Colchester, I was still in the hood, but it was like a white town and I was in the hood of that white town. So I had all of the hip hop, I had all of the, hood type ish. And then when I moved to Colchester, I loved skateboarding even when I was in East Hartford. So I grew up with Linkin Park, I grew up with Nas, I grew up with Tribe Called Quest, Jurassic 5, um, POD. All I had rock bands, Christian rock bands even, which is wild. Um, Metal, straight up gangster rap, like the Tupacs and the Biggie eras were that was my shit. So it was really tough to really say who were my favorites because I would have to give you a top five in every genre. So people didn't know where to put me when I was younger, and I didn't know where I really fit in when I was younger. I had so many different influences and different types of music from EDM to rock to hip hop to pop that my mother would spend her entire, she would be in the kitchen playing island music from Barbados, where our family's from, and she would play island music nonstop. My dad would take me on long drive to New Jersey, where his family is from, and he would play nothing but smooth jazz. And I would go to school listening to Linkin Park, you know, the Linkin Park first album on blast on my Osiris G bag, which I still have to this day. So it
Wow.
was everywhere that you can see my life being in like a different time period. It was you would never I couldn't tell you what my favorite genre of music is. I know what music I make,
Yeah.
but again,
But
I would
what
have to
you
give you a
listen
top
to is a
five in every
different thing.
genre.
Maybe we'll end the show on that because, like,
Yeah,
I'm kind of the
that
same
was
way. I have friends that'll laugh at my playlist because
I'm an
I
eclectic
like,
listener, man.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like death metal, the heavy metal, doom metal, but I'll listen to like a rap song right after it and love it.
Right, right. That yo, the aux cord in my car is tough.
Mm.
It's tough to get to because a lot of times I will my I don't know what Spotify thinks of me because I go from playing like you said, like I'll go from metal to rap to EDM for like a whole 10 minutes, and then I'll go back to rap. I'll go to a smooth jazz. I don't know if people want to fall asleep or headbang in my car on the way home,
Isn't it
but
funny though how that'll fuck up the new music radar on your thing where it's like,
oh yeah, they don't know what to suggest, bro.
yeah,
They
they're
don't
like
know what
giving
to
you
suggest.
everything, and then you get mad. You're like, I never listened to this, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like these
Well, you
other
kind of
things you
do.
like.
They're just like, yeah, we thought you would.
And I mean, you're talking about you evolved from poetry into rap,
Yeah.
and I would almost argue that's kind of like where rap came from. If you look
Oh
at
yeah,
like
absolutely.
what Gil Scott Heron was doing in the 70s and how that kind of morphed a little bit and changed, and what rap is really kind of just poetry over
Oh, of
beats.
course. Of course. Of course. Of course.
I mean, maybe
That
some
was
of the
it.
newer artists, it's hard to defend a little bit. Like when I first heard WAP, I was just like, first off, I heard it on a podcast I was doing, a rap one, and the host is like, "Have you ever heard it?" And I go, "No." And she goes, "Let me play it for you." She played
So
it, and I just started laughing. I'm
so
like, "What is this?" Like,
think about this for a sec. If you take the lyrics of WAP and you take away the beat and you let a a really strong voiced poet, I guess, read those words, just
Yeah.
on paper. Give them a piece of paper with the lyrics to WAP. Have a bunch of, steady listeners in the crowd just ready to snap fingers and have her read WAP. She could make that into a poem because technically it is a poem. It just wouldn't be your traditional format of what we call poetry, which really is formatless. Um,
Yeah,
but if
it's
you
kind
were to
of like
give someone, if you were to give a nice old white lady who's got plenty of awards in poetry, or give it to, Maya Angelou and have her read WAP, she could probably make it sound like the most epic poem about wet ass pussy you've ever heard. It's really all in the eyes of the beholder or the ears of the listener.
yeah, I feel like
Um,
poetry is almost like in the eyes of the author. Like the
yeah,
whoever's
for
writing
sure,
it d
for sure.
dictates
It's up to
the
the yeah,
format.
exactly.
Now, when and how did you go from just being a fan of music? I mean, you kind of described it earlier to actually trying to get in the music business and making music.
Okay. So in high school, I'd want to say like in freshman year, I grew up in East Hartford all the way up until sixth grade, fifth or sixth grade, and I was one of only a handful of black kids in my entire town. And I say this with honesty, this isn't like fabricated or exaggerated. I could count on one hand how many Afro American or even Spanish kids were in our town in my age bracket, in who I grew up with in as friends. And one of my first friends in Country Place where I grew up, his name was Demar, and he goes by Young D. He's my business partner. He's the CEO of Connecticut People Records now. But we grew up really close because he too skateboarded. He too liked a lot of the same music as I did. And it was probably because of how we grew up. We just ended up liking the same things because that's what we were exposed to. And we were really open minded, but we grew up together all through high school. And I think about maybe freshman year, and he's a year younger than me, so freshman year he was in eighth grade. We started to make these little mixtapes. This is back when everyone had the CD players with the discman with the skip protection, and CDs were really expensive then, and they were hard to make because you had to have a computer that could write them. But we would make these mixtapes and sell them around school. And at the time, we were called the Country Place Gang, and we were eighth grade, freshman level. We were high school kids selling these mixtapes, and it just became this pretty much conglomerate. And that team, I should say, that camaraderie between me and Young D carried through high school to the point where we ended up going to school, to college for these things. I went to school for graphic design. Throughout the whole time, I really only wanted to do music, and I think that's why my grades at the time were really messed up. And he went to Full Sail for music engineering. And when we came back from those experiences, even through it all, we were still making music together. We still had the Connecticut People Records brand. It went from being the CPG to like the Country Place Gang to Connecticut People Records, which CPR. And that was like our professional LLC name. And when he got back from college and when I was done with college, we were just like, yo, let's make this like real. Let's go from making albums, with nothing behind us and no Connecticut artists to support, or, not that there's not, but we didn't grow up with the support system and the outlets that a lot of other states or countries even had and were giving to kids that wanted to do hip hop and make music. So we kind of professionalized that in college. I want to say in 2007, 2008 was when the professional juices started to flow. But the attitude has always been there since the very beginning. I think the mindset was always there. It was just the know-how and the build up was post high school, 2007, 2008 ish, and it became really official during that time.
Now, isn't it crazy that when you see albums out there and you see people doing it and it feels like it's so hard to get there. But
Sure.
in reality, through kind of what you described with music and through podcasting, you just start doing it. And then as you go, you get better at your craft.
Hmm.
You learn better ways to do it, and then you can start building on it. But it just starts from starting,
Yeah, it
like
starts
putting in
from
that effort.
yeah, passion breeds the energy to actually get something going. As you could probably relate, I don't know where your dream started with podcasting or where that idea kind of birthed in your mind, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a couple key factors. It's who you're around is
Yeah.
a huge factor. A lot of people end up having these dreams and these like inner passions and motivations, and they're around the wrong people that don't nurture those things, or they're brought up in an environment where they're not able to get out of it and to find the right crowd of people. It comes with self drive obviously is one of those things, and an outlet. It's there's a lot of key factors that go in with starting it. And I can say with full honesty, I did have a mom that really cared about my life. I did have, even though my parents were separated for a long time, I did have both of my parents present in some way. Um, it took me really admitting to myself outside of high school when I graduated that I wanted to form a better relationship with my dad, because I didn't feel as if I could be a man if I didn't confront that demon. I should say, I don't want to call it that, but that thing. And that really brought out of me this idea that, if I can confront this, I can confront pretty much anything that I want to do in any respect, because that was a big hurdle for me. And I think that was one of the hurdles that was stopping me from even thinking about dreams in a way, or about pursuing passions, because I was being held down by things. So another one of those key factors is, I guess, resolving issues that you have in your life that may be anchors for you, and find a way to cut those anchors off and go to the surface so that you can breathe fresh air. And I don't think a lot of people really end up doing that until it's too late, or until they let somebody else dictate the way their life is, or tell them how they think they should be living. And for me,
100%.
for me personally, a lot of those factors came with time. It came with experience. It came with admitting my faults, um, getting rid of like self doubt, and just
That's
getting around the right people and learning from them, like Damar and the Camachos and the Meeches. These are people that I learn from even when they're not around me. I take energy from them and I give it back. I get knowledge from them, I give it back. And if that cipher works, you have no option but to succeed. But if you're around parasitic people, or if you are in parasitic situations that you won't find your way out of, or if you're around bad environments, the product of those is only going to be something that eventually is disarray. So,
Yeah, like I actually started this podcast because I had two friends that wanted to,
mm,
and I had a job I absolutely hated. I didn't
right, right.
realize how much I hated it at the moment, but when I got this creative outlet, I'm like, I like doing that.
This, right,
And
right.
then when I went to work, I would just
Think about that
it was a weird
instead of,
existential angst. I'm like, "What am I doing here?"
yep,
Somebody would tell me to do something, and I'd be like, "Get fucked."
yeah,
I'd be on the grocery store sales floor telling the place to suck my dick, and I'm like, "Wait a minute. That's not regular people stuff." So I got written up one day, and I just looked at the manager. I was so mad, and we had a union there. So she goes, "If this keeps up, I'm gonna have to suspend you." And I look at the guy I was standing with. I'm like, or I told her, I'm like, "Suspend me part-time. I don't give a fuck." And the guy was like, "You wanna get suspended?" I'm like, "I don't wanna do this anymore." Basically, when I was talking to the manager, I think she said to me at one point, she goes, "Well, if you don't wanna be doing this, you probably shouldn't work here." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good point. I probably shouldn't." So I'm like, "Put me down to part-time. I'll figure it out." And then when I went to part-time, it fucked up my money. So I'm like, "Can I get an overnight shift? Because you pay more on overnights." So I did that to make up the money I lost. Another guy put me onto another job. When I got that other job, I love it so much more. I'm so much happier. And the podcast has only improved then. I've done more to go out to get guests. I've done more to try and market better. Isn't it weird how that if you're living in a way that's not doesn't match up with your ideals,
Yeah.
spiritually it feels like it's killing you.
Trust me, man. I don't think that's actually weird at all. It's just it's eye-opening, and it's typical. It's actually very typical, but a lot of people don't know when to identify it and don't believe that they have the power to change it or just do something about it. I just like a lot of people have worked in retail. I was stuck as a desk jockey for 2, 3 years out of my life working for a company where I was just a number, and that's for people. There's some people that's for them. That's their thing. I don't want to ever downplay or make somebody feel bad about the job that they have. If they like their job and they believe that they're making a difference in their life or the world, good for you. All power to you. But that's not for everybody, and some people just aren't meant for that. And in my heart, I really do believe, and I will never stop believing, that I'm not meant to be behind a desk. My attitude and my charisma is not meant to be wasted away selling somebody products that the company that I'm working for doesn't even want to give me for free. Um, it's not meant to be behind a desk getting berated by people that don't care about my well being or my mental health. What I have to offer the world, I think, would be wasted if I were in those positions. And that's something that I think a lot of people either realize too late, never realize, or realize and they don't think they have the strength to change it because of either financial responsibility, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whatever the situation is. And I could give a fuck about any of those things. Like, I'm sorry I got passionate about that, but the reality is you literally live one time.
Yeah, and why would
Like
you do it for somebody else?
the speck of time that is in the grand spectrum of the universe is so minuscule that if you're spending your time giving your energy and your lifeblood to something that's not giving any back, it just and you're not putting anything else out into the universe except for just like yourself and your slaveness to it, that ain't a good look for me. So in in my experience, and I'm sure this is the same for you, I really just want to put something out into the universe, whether it's once a year, twice a year, every couple months. I just want to put something out that makes me feel good or speaks to other people in a way. I want my voice to be heard, even if it's by one person, two people, 200 people is cool. But I really want to give something to the universe that's just not me working for something like a paycheck. I don't just want to live paycheck to paycheck, obviously, but I don't also just want to live year by year and be on a grind that doesn't give me any mental
I found
stimulation.
satisfaction, like, when I had the creative outlet, I'm like, "That's what I'm looking for in life."
That's
I'm like,
awesome, man.
"I don't know how to get more of that, but, like, let's do it."
Right.
And then
That's
the more
awesome,
we
dude.
got to talk to some like, not even famous wrestlers. We've talked to famous ones, but I like building it up from the bottom up
I
because
listened to
I
some of your wrestling podcasts. I swear to God, I didn't even know that you did the rest. I First of all, I didn't even know you. This is the first time I'm ever seeing your face. This is I met you less than a week ago, and my roommate Ryan, he's upstairs right now. I put him onto your podcast like this is last week, the
nice.
day that I introduced you to Meech, and that's all he talks about now. That's all he talks about is wrestling. He's always been a wrestling god tier fanatic, but
Yeah.
he's one of those people that never found again until he watches YouTube, he watches all these things, but I think when someone like you is talking about it as a personal, not no disrespect, but as a regular guy, as a working guy
Yeah,
who is like not only a fan, but someone who's like passionate about it. He doesn't have a lot of like people he follows that are like you. So
that's why
just
we
a,
started the
and
podcast
that's why
because
you
we're
do
all
it, man.
wrestling fans, but it's
That's
so
why you
like,
do it.
yeah, and it's so underground that it's like to find somebody else that matches your passion. With a lot of people, we get, yeah, I used to watch wrestling, but, and then it's like you
Hmm.
got to go through the fake stuff, and it's like, yeah, but it's the storylines. It's if you
Yeah.
there's
He's
ooh, it kicked out the audio again. But like when I'm watching AEW and this guy Hook comes out to Action Bronson's The Chairman's Intent, and I'm
Mhm.
sitting there, he's coming out, and I'm like, holy shit, I know this song. What is it? And then I hear it and I'm like, oh shit. That's the kind of thing that gets me. Now, I hate to push it along, but you're definitely an artist. What inspires you the most to create?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What inspires me the most to create things? So
With comedians, it's just life, living a life,
that I
flipping that into it.
I want to say that. I want to say life is what inspires us to create things, but that's a really big cliche. So what inspires me to create things is actually other people. I want to say other people's lives intertwined with mine, the negative experiences, the good, the bad, and I draw a lot of inspiration from other people's inspirations, which sounds crazy, but
It's
I
like
grew up.
heading to your music library. You talk to somebody, you hear something they say, like a way they think, and you're
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
that's interesting. Like you kind of add it to your repertoire. And then you have this whole like when you think a way that you never thought before, something opens your mind.
Absolutely.
That could be an
Absolutely.
inspiration there and lead to something.
I will say this, I think struggles, um, the depths of other people's love for things and my love for certain things, relationships, video games, um, politics, things that are going on in the world, I will always pull from those things because those are constants, you know. You don't constantly have to be in a relationship, but relationships, social media, politics, those are going to be ever evolving. Those are going to be there, whether you like it or not, whether you're in a good political space, relationship space, or not, it's always going to be there. So I pull from all of those things, even when I'm not thinking about them actively. Before actually got on this podcast with you, I was playing a game called Dying Light 2, which is really popular right now.
Yeah, I've heard a
Um,
lot about it. We were talking about it the other
yeah,
night after work. I'm told I got to
and
check it out.
the reason why I actually didn't join as soon as you put that uh hey
Yeah,
join
here's
the
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 link.
cast, I was like writing something. It just randomly popped in my head and I was like I got to get this off before it's in the ethos, you know. So you can draw inspiration from anything. You just have to really open your mind up to it and be open. You just have to be open to creativeness. You know, not everybody has that. I would be a liar if I said everyone is a natural creative person, but everyone has the potential to sit down and let themselves create something. It may not be the best by other people's standards, and it may not win you an award or a Grammy or a BET award or whatever the hell you think, which is special. But everyone has the potential to be creative if they let themselves be.
100%. Now, the way you were talking about growing up, it made me think of an old Lupe Fiasco line, and I wanted to look it up
Yes.
because
Ooh.
I got not from the way you rap, but just your story. It had me thinking about Lupe because you were talking about skating and all that. And it
Yeah.
had me think of that line where he talks about bumping everything from Misfits to Outcast
Yeah.
and how
Kick
that's
Push
like,
was Kick Push was the soundtrack of our lives, man. And big shouts to Lupe. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but if he does, I love you as a lyricist, as an activist, as a homie. Um, Kick Push was the song that all of us wrote. And when I say all of us wrote it, like every skater who was a black kid growing up, even if you're a white kid, a Spanish kid, whatever your ethnicity, if you didn't have that song to bump, there was no skater song that explained our like what we were going through. And it
Yeah.
felt like the song I had written a million times but never recorded. And when I heard Kick Push, which was the first Lupe song that really blew up, I
Yeah.
was like, yo, I wrote this song.
Mm.
Like this is my shit, and everybody felt that way. That it was a song that spoke to them. And and again, that was around the time when I really was starting to take my lyricism serious. So that's
And I
funny
also
you said that. To compare me to Lupe is absolutely wild. That's an honor to me because he's one of my top five, man. He's one of my top five.
and another rapper that you gave me vibes of is Childish Gambino. Just
Ooh.
how real, like you're talking about real life in these
Wow.
bars. Like I think at one part you talk about being in Black Panther pajamas.
Yep, I got him
And
on.
it's like that almost has me thinking about that song where he's talking about sleeping in the bed between his mom and aunt with the Land Before Time toy he got from Pizza Hut. One of those little
Bars,
details that you're like,
bars.
it's a rap, but that's real life. I can
It's real
picture a
life.
kid sitting, and that's why the album connects with me.
I
Tell us
still
about
got
the fog. I
I
want to get
still
into
got my
these
Game
songs.
Boy. What did I say? I still got my Game Boy Color. I'm still rocking Black Panther jammies. Yeah,
I
that was yeah, that's all
like
true.
I was looking at these lyrics because like first tell us about the fog and then let me fan out over these songs you picked. Like how did
Sure.
you come about writing it? It's your latest album. Tell us about the path from developing it to getting it out.
The fog. Okay, so this is a complicated story to tell. Not really, actually. So the fog has been in development for about 2 years of my life, two plus years, I would say. The first song that started I guess you could say, the development of the fog was actually called it was called Voices, which is on the album. Um, I was on the tail end of a band album called Trifecta, which I also have with me here. Shouts out to Joanna Pericone and Al Delgado. I had put out the Trifecta EP, which was all three of us, and that took about a year to put out. This is what, circa 2019 now? And we put out that project. It was amazing. And then Joanna no longer wanted to do music anymore. So the band that we took all these years and all this time to kind of, glue together, I produced the entire album. And that was kind of like, oh, well, damn, what are you going to do? You can't force somebody to follow through with a passion or follow through with something. And everyone's got their own life path. So I was on the tail end of that album, and I had already had so many albums myself. I had Apex, which was my last personal album. That was in 2018. After that, I did a album with Al Delgado called Foreign Exchange, and then the band album. So I had been in this gray space of artistry for a while where I was telling myself I had gotten all these awards, I won all these, Connecticut awards, I had done all this stuff. I was getting, asked and pulled in different directions from labels and everything. And I told myself at the end of the the album with the full band, that that was going to be the ceiling for me as like an underground artist. And I felt, and this is me just, I'm trying to compress everything into, not to make this too long, but when you're an underground artist or when you're a local artist for so long and you feel like you've reached the peak of what you want to do at that level, and you see this ceiling and you crash through that ceiling, a lot of times it's not always a record contract for X amount of millions of dollars and instant success. It's not always going to be you go on a world tour and you're big now or you're insta famous or whatever. And I felt that after this album, after the Apex album, after Foreign Exchange, after the Trifecta era, I think that's my ceiling of this level, and be to get to the next level. I don't want to do anything that's not next level after those projects. So when I broke through that ceiling, and this is all in my what I feel in my head and mentally at the time, this is 2020 now, I found myself after breaking through that ceiling, releasing the albums, putting my energy and my lifeblood into those projects. I found myself in what I thought was the fog. After you break through this metaphorical ceiling of your artistry, and you're just like, okay, everything past that is going to be fire. It's going to be labels. I'm going to sign this deal. I'm shooting more videos. And I was just in this gray space, like, this is the Matrix level. You remember when Neo meets um Sam Fisher's character, whatever, not Sam Fisher, Lawrence Fishburne's character. See, I'm a video game at heart. Lawrence Fishburne's character, and they're in this blank area where anything can happen, where they're making the guns and the chairs there and the TV.
Yeah.
That was the area of space I felt I was in. Like, I wanted to write, but I didn't know where to go next. I wanted to make the next project, but I was in this fog. Like, who do I pitch it to? What do I do with an album, even if I make it? Do I reach out to a band? Do I look for other production? And it was this foggy space that I had. I was in a really bad relationship. I was dealing with, family issues, a lot of death in my family. It's just fogginess. And that is what I eventually decided to call the album, was The Fog. And it was really a culmination of all of the things that were going through in my mind after I had put so much into Apex. I had put so much into Foreign Exchange. I had put so much into Trifecta, and I wanted to make that breakthrough and just get to the next level. But the next level was Fog. And what was past that, I don't know yet. But that's we're in the Fog era right now.
Now, the first song I picked today, tell us about Heavy Hearts. This one, God, just from the opening, there were video game passages partway through that got me. Tell me a little bit about this.
Okay, so Heavy Hearts was one of the second songs that I made after Voices came out. Voices actually got me signed. That's what got my deal. Heavy Hearts is pulled from it's from the moment I finished the beat. It's one of those beats that just it gets your juices flowing, and I immediately couldn't stop thinking about just telling a story on that track. Heavy Hearts, the reason why I called it Heavy Hearts, not only because that's what the track file was named in Reason. I use a program called Reason, and a lot of times I'll just take the energy that I'm feeling, and I'll name the beat whatever I think at the time is how I feel. And the beat gave me a really heavy feel, and I called it Heavy Hearts. And I actually kept that as the name of the song, which is not, I don't seldom do that. Or sorry, I seldomly do that. And it went from being a story about, you know, heartbreak to just being a story of like life. And I felt like that was only right to start off the album that way. And
I
I
mean,
think
I felt
without,
heartbreak, but I also felt dedication, because when you say I
yeah,
put my heart in this, I'm sorry if there's none left for you. It's
yes,
almost like admitting, like, yeah, I'm dedicated to this, and maybe that's where my heart is more.
yeah, that's really it. Um, so in relationships, a lot of times, especially if you're dating someone who is a radio personality like yourself, or an artist or a rapper or a singer, it's really, I can imagine it being difficult because there's a certain amount of intimacy that, if you really care about your stuff, if you really care about your artistry, and you really care about what listeners are hearing and feeling, you have to be intimate sometimes. You have to be you have to expose yourself. And that song was kind of pulled from a place where I've been in relationships before where it's not appreciated, and you have to give yourself to sometimes the world before you give all of yourself to one person. And that's where a lot of my music, at least that's what that song is about, and what that hook is kind of about, because I I I I am a sympathetic person, but I'm unapologetically me. And at the end of the day, I can't really apologize for being passionate about what I do and giving my all to the dream. Because before, I don't know what your relationship status is like, but I know that half the girls I've dated before were not with me when me and Demar were shooting in the gym. They were not with me, guy or girl, like whether they were homies that I met along the way or girls that I dated along the way. You weren't part of this picture until I drew you in it. You were not part of this love before I told you about my passions. So I'm sorry if there's none left for you at the end of the day, but either you can get on the wave with me and ride it, or you can just paddle back to land, because I loved all this stuff before you were here, and I can't just stop because you're just like, oh, I kind of like you.
Yeah.
Stop rapping. I
Now,
really want dreams to come true.
another reason I picked this is young guy with an older mind since the
Hmm.
days of GoldenEye.
Yep.
Just that verse and how you end, I believe it ends right around a Perfect Dark reference. You
Yes.
crammed so many references in here, like the line about never use cheat codes, the thing about the big head. I remember the big head. I
Yes.
remember, and it's not only bad in that game, but like you said, it's
tactically counterproductive if you're not trying to get shot. And that's not only a video game reference, but that's a real life reference, because people who are big-headed, they put themselves out there just trying to be the loudest person in the room, and it's just opening you up for attack. It's opening you up for problems. It's more problems than it is good.
And I love that duality. I just love everything about this song. Guys, here it is.
I put my heart in this. I'm sorry if there's not left for you. Lift me up, not bring me down. I made this beat in my form, steadily dreaming of torn. Finding your purpose is way more resourceful than making others feel important. This sort of lifestyle is hectic. I'm sorry that you feel neglected. I dealt with your baggage, you dealt with my habits. I think that we both should respect it. Skinny nigga, where the have you played? If it ain't money, I don't even wanna conversate. Fuck a good, then I meditate. Take a soul, watch it levitate. That's a bust down, care back then, but I couldn't give a fuck now. Shorty wasn't with it back then, but they all done a ride, cause a nigga looking good and I'm up now. Fact check. Ooh, check the breakdown. I grew up with some people that never evolved and they had to get taken down. We grinded dirt into diamonds. They swore that this shit was impractical. We're the young D, we were tactical. Papa's lessons were invaluable. Yeah, word to mammy, coming in hot and I spattered the landing. Still got my Pokemon cards on my Game Boy Color. I'm still rocking Black Panther jammies. Stuck to my roots. I'm faithful to all of my troops. I took a shot in the dark when everyone else was too scared to shoot. I put my heart in this. I'm sorry if there's none left for you. These dreams are all I have. I'm sorry I can't conform for you. Settle for normal, that's okay. Please don't let me get in the way. If you love me, then you will lift me up, not bring me down. Yeah, I wrote this flow on the toilet. Steadily dreaming of touring. Finding your passion is way more impactful than living a life full of boredom. That sort of lifestyle is dormant of anything holding importance. If it ain't you that is painting your portrait, then baby, you're risking extortion. A lot of people want a part of you. They don't care about the heart of you. Young guy with an older mind. Since the old times of GoldenEye. Me and the game got some history. The golden gun was the industry. Cause all you need is that one shot, but when and where to use it is the mystery. Never never use cheat codes. A big head, just a big target. I'd rather shoot all of my free throws, even in perfect darkness. Rare cameo appearance, conquered all my regretfulness. Only some caught the reference, 64 more on the checklist. Used to want all this designer shit, then I started up my own brand. The value is never in question when you're doing the shit with your own hands. Is there a price on your dedication? What have you done for your preservation? Better wake up and go get it, cause dreams do not offer up reservations.
I put my heart in this. I'm sorry if there's none left for you. These dreams are all I have. I'm sorry I can't conform for you. Settle for normal, that's okay. Please don't let me get in the way. If you love me, then you will lift me up, not bring me down. I put my heart in this. These dreams are all I have for me. Settle for normal, that's okay. Please don't let me get in the way. If you loved me, then you will lift me up, not bring me down.
God, now I really love that last song, but the next one I got for you, Dale Paca. This, once the beat started, it gave me that old Def Jamaica vibe.
Yeah.
And just once it starts, you get moving. Tell us about Delgado Jack and tell us about this song.
So Delgado Jack is earlier. I think we touched on it a little bit. Delgado Jack is one of my best friends. He used to go by Action Jackson, and we came up with we have that album Foreign Exchange, which we are in the developing stages of Foreign Exchange 2, by the way. He was also part of Trifecta, which was me, Joanna Perricone, and Action Jack at the time. So Delgado Jack has been in my music life for years now, and I confronted Al, who I call him Al. I confronted him about like dabbling in reggaeton, which is a music genre that I like, but I don't speak fluent Spanish, and I don't know how to attack those songs that well. And that's one of the few genres that I actually don't know how to, attack, or didn't at the time. And he was like, yo, I got you. And I made the beat. He liked it. I leaned more into hip hop in that beat, and he just opened that song up perfectly, man. He actually came up with the hook. He, the intro was spicy, and that it was just off to the races after that. And he was like, I know that you can do this hook justice if you put your layer on it, Cam, if you put a verse on it. I originally was going to give that song to him, and he was like, nah. He's like, nah, just kill it. And that was the first, I think, time where I dabbled in reggaeton fully. I think with him, I think Foreign Exchange did have one on there, but not on my personal album. That was The Fog had the first reggaeton bop on there. And big ups to Delgado Jack. That's my brother right there. He's an amazing artist in his own respect. I hope that you can maybe put him on a podcast one day. And yeah, Dale Paca is awesome. It was spicy. Girls are dancing to that all over the world now, and I'm really happy that came out the way it did.
Yeah, guys, check out this song. It is so fun. We'll play it for you now.
Dime lo que quieres. No me dejas con las ganas, dale, propongo a comerte de todo. Dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama. Dale pa' atrás, toma, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa, I ain't with the gossip. It's cool, Cam, I got this. I ain't with the nonsense, hitting in the drop list is misses, doing shit that's different. Yeah, I'm finna split once I just hit this like I'm missing. She be on the dick, I be coming through so intermittent on a mission. Last night, new position, lights out, submission. Always heavy in the streets, cause you know they coming if it's showing weakness. and bugging in the sheets. Cause I like it when she comfortable and freaky. Do not play with me, cause I'm flavor C. I'm 10 levels deep, I'll inflate the fee. So don't fuck with me, I'm up in your crib like Sosa told me. So get about your feelings. Go and live the best life you can live. I'ma sip till I'm feeling right, get it? Yeah, I'm finna, I'ma pull up to the crib like dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama.
Ooh, vibe on the beat. Her body come alive on the beat. Never lie on the beat. She just wanna slide for the week. Get wild in the sheets. Yeah, I tell her come and ride on the freak. Ooh, watch how I do. Is it the shoes? Look how she moving. Ooh, baby, what you doing? Club go off on a Monday. Bad chick straight off the runway. She a freak on the weekend, but she at church on a Sunday. Wow. Switch up the tempo. She loving the dembo. Yeah, I'm the man. Oh, you ain't get the memo. Hit you with the new shit. Go ahead and wear it if the shoe fits. Shorty working for the peso. She bust it open like Domi on peso. Young and educated, I'm steadily cheddar caking. And shorty be getting wild. I give her that medication, I'm a real one. Tell your old man he a real bum. You don't know a brother like me until you feel one. Forget about your feelings. Gon' live the best life you can live. I'ma sip till I'm feeling right, get it? Yeah, I'm finna pull up to the crib like
dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa y dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama,
dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi casa, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá, dale pa' acá. Ven pa' mi cama.
All right. So the last song we got here, Hold On Too Long. I really picked this because when
Did
you
you see the
talk about-
video?
I have not yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to
You'll
have
like
to
that.
check that out after this. But like, there's just times in life, like somebody was talking on a podcast about having a podcast with somebody else. The chemistry was falling apart.
Yes.
And I just commented, I'm like, guys, it's almost like the feeling died, but nobody wants to be the bad person to be like, we got to end this. And that leaves you in this spot where you're kind of like prisoner in this thing. And Hold On Too Long just kind of hit me with that vibe where it's like, sometimes you got to know when it's just done. And it's hard in life because you can even know that you have to avoid that bias in your own head. And it's hard to do. So tell us about Hold On Too Long.
So Hold On was a product of, I don't want to say that it's a product of one relationship, but it's a song for anyone, I guess you could say, who has held on to something or someone or some palpable feeling in their heart for too long past expiration date. And I think the song kind of explains itself in a way, but the idea there is that when I'm trying not to draw directly from the lyrics rather than draw from like the backstory, and when someone loves you and you feel like you love them or you love something or the idea of something and it becomes more chorey or not real anymore, but you still, like you said, when you hold on to it too long, it mutates into something else, and it's never usually good after that, you know. So that song is kind of a more upbeat uh tempo song about that. And you chose such diverse records. I'm so happy that you did that. You have
I mean,
Heavy
honestly,
Hearts. I was not expecting you to choose that diverse of an array because it's like you've got three really different songs about three completely different, avenues of my life, which is so great, man. But
and that's why I wanted to highlight it because I didn't like when I'm a music nerd. So when I pick up an album, yes, I like the bangers. Yes, I
mhm,
like the deep cuts. But what I wanted to tell people, like, these 3 songs are why you should buy this album. I like
wow.
I don't even know if I would have I don't look at songs as like I'm picking the best songs off the album. I'm picking the ones that I like and the ones that I think would hook people. And these I had a list of like 7 or 8 songs that I had to trim it down to.
Yeah, I
And over
feel
the
you.
course of a couple days, I'm listening and I'm like, I really like this song, but I don't want to feature it.
Sure.
Not that it's not good, but it's just I think there's something different on this. And Heavy Hearts, you got the video game reference, and you got like almost a story of dedication. Dale Paka, it's a very like party type song. It'll
Yep,
get it started anywhere. And then just hold on too long. It's a life lesson that I think more people need to learn. And
for
this
sure.
song almost got the message across to me. So
There
guys, check
there
out
is a
Hold On.
video. There is a video that you can YouTube it. It's called Hold It. It's on my YouTube page. Actually, you could find pretty much all of the YouTube songs there, but the video for this is the first ever music video from The Fog, and it is my premiere video. So if you like the song, you'll probably love the video. Kevin Zito, who was a awesome light tech, did all the lights for it. My video guy did an awesome job as well capturing it. Named Klimko, he's amazing. And yeah, if you love this song and you love this podcast, check out the video. You'll like that too.
Nice, guys. Here is Hold On Too Long.
I took my time on the intro. Yeah, I thought I'd switch up the tempo. I know. No, I wasn't looking for lovers, but we took a chance on each other. Now we've been spending all this time. I've been blind to all the signs. Now that well is running dry. We grown, we ain't helpless. If I keep you, I'll be selfish. We can't keep this up, we're living a lie. It's time I let you know I should have let you go. I never meant to do you wrong. All this time we couldn't see how we drifted out of reach. I thought we'd find it, but that loving is gone. And I hold on for way too long. Time aside for you and me, schooling me on love, but I was exercising truancy. Way too good at goodbyes, this ain't new to me. Heartbreak Hotel, here's my room key. Real talk, I speak it fluently. Letters from my old self, sent from who I used to be. Maybe I should monetize the heartbreak, cause anything you're good at doing, you should never do for free. Hate me now, thank me later, we know the story, I'll let you narrate it. Love made is never love lost. Money well spent if you don't cut costs. I'm sorry for the time I can't return to you. There's no way I could have known what it would turn into. So let it die if it was unresolved. I'd rather live and learn if there was love involved. It's time I let you know I should have let you go. I never meant to do you wrong. All this time we couldn't see how we drifted out of reach. I thought we'd find it, but that loving is gone, and I hold on for way too long. I thought we'd find it, but the loving is gone. I hold on for way too long, and I hold on for way too long, and we held on for way too long. I held on for way too long. I hold on for way too long. This time I let you know that I should've let you go. I never meant to do you wrong. I hold on for way too long. This time we couldn't see how we drifted out of reach. I thought we'd find it, but the loving is gone, and I hold on for way too long.
All right. We have featured 3 great songs today. I feel like we could talk for another hour, but I don't want to hold you up any longer. We're definitely going to have you back on, but let the people know where they can find you and anything they need to know.
So most of my social media tags are pretty much the same. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Kamoflage CPR. That's KAMOFLAGE CPR. Again, that's KAMOFLAGE CPR. And that's on pretty much everything from Facebook to Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel under Kamal Lone, which is my full name. I'm not afraid to give that out. Where you could find Hold On Too Long. You could find all sorts of videos up there of previous albums and songs. My discography, my entire discography can be found on my website, which is camouflage.bandcamp.com. You can listen from all the way back to my first ever album to The Fog, and they're all there readily available for you. And yeah, I have my merch site, which is Rock Paper Scissors on Facebook, my gaming channel on Twitch. All those are under Kamoflage. You can definitely find me. If your grandma can find me, you can find me.
Well, Cam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Joe, man. Thank you. This is a huge blessing. This is the first podcast I think I've ever done, and it's with an awesome guy, an awesome team. You guys, if you're watching this, don't check me out. Just check this guy out too, man. If you like WWE, if you like WWF, if you like AEW, anything in between, check this guy out. He's an awesome dude. If you're an artist, reach out to this man. He's doing a real service for the community, for the podcast world, and for all of us, man. This is a huge deal for me. I know it doesn't seem like it, but this is an honor, man. I'm really honored that you even took the time to listen to the project, that you took the time to listen to Meech, that you are communicative, and I hope your podcast blows up, man. Because if I blow up, this is going to be the first one I share with people. Like, yo, this is one of the cats that first let me on. So
excellent. Thank you very much, man.
You, man.
You couldn't have put us over better. Thank you.